When I was 18, my mother found out I was gay. She had read my journal and she pulled me out of school to have a conversation with me in the house. She was not very happy. About 2 weeks later, my appendix burst. They had been the 2 most stressful weeks of my life, dealing with emotions of relief, of conflict, of guilt. I felt that I was a disappointment to them. I felt that I was defective. After my surgery, after recovery, after we were able to talk again, we were able to mend our relationship, and now we are really good friends, and I have a really loving family. I feel really lucky. I know it's not so easy for all of us. And this is exactly where our question is going today. My guest is wondering if they should come out to their family. And I am honored and excited to have this conversation with them. I'm Mauricio Bruce, and this is The Real Question. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you. I'm well, hanging in there as best I think any of us are currently.
I'm really excited to have you here. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you know, before we talk about anything, I'm going to ask you a question, which is, if you could tell me anything about yourself, what would you like to share?
I think that I would tell you that I call my Congress people probably more often than normal people do. In case people didn't know, if you live in the United States, you can call them anytime, and they will maybe answer your call, but they have a mailbox. I don't think like Marco Rubio will actually answer your phone call, but maybe.
Maybe.
There's a really awesome app that exists in the United States called 5Calls, and it tracks what's moving through Congress and can give you a little script of what to say if you want to call your congressperson and say, hey, I don't like this thing. I don't want my senator to vote for it. Or I do like this thing, and here's why. Please tell them to vote for it. So it's pretty cool. I tell everyone about it because sometimes being active in politics seems inaccessible. And this is a way that you can do it from your couch. And it's pretty low barrier for access. So I think that that's probably what I would tell you, that you can call them anytime and they will take your call.
I mean, not only is this interesting, it's sort of helpful. It's a piece of advice for all our listeners.
At least in the United States.
Yeah,
yes.
Fair. Okay. But I'm intrigued to see how this will come into our conversation as we move on. So tell me, what is the question that you've brought for us that you've come to ask today?
My question is, should I come out to my family? I'm going to be turning 36 in a few months. I have lived a pretty straight life up until, I don't know, a few years ago. I was married to a man at one point in my life. I grew up in a very homogenous and heterosexual environment. And I'm realizing now later in life, like some people do, that maybe the identity I thought I had isn't the one that I actually have. And so I recently ended my first queer relationship, and there were a lot of reasons why we didn't work out. And one of those is that I'm not out with my family. And that was a big point of contention, because if that relationship were to have gone somewhere serious, what was I going to do? Was I going to just show up one day with this person and be like, hey, surprise, this is who I am now? Would I have kept them a secret forever? And that was a big problem. And so as the relationship has ended, it's something I've been thinking more and more about. This conflicting value that I have of like maintaining my own sense of independence or my own sense of like what I choose to share with people versus my value of like wanting to live in authentic ways and just be unabashedly who I am. And so I think that's the biggest context around why I brought this question, because it is something that I've struggled with for a while. So
first of all, thank you for bringing us this question. I really appreciate it and I really value it. And I want to ask some questions around sort of everything you've told me just now. You said you just ended your first queer relationship, and that one of the main reasons why you ended that relationship was because you weren't out to your family. And this was sort of a point of tension within the relationship. And so I just want to ask first, is this something that came out of you, of your own desire? Or is this something you're thinking because your partner said, because that's not there, then I can't continue with you?
I think it may be a bit of both, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I already don't have a great relationship with my immediate family.
Okay.
I am living a life that they find quite disappointing, if I'll be frank. Even though I have a very steady job, I live independently, I pay for all my own crap, I'm a homeowner. But I'm not married to another man making Christian babies. And that is kind of the party line in my family. And if that's not something that you are doing, they're not going to say, hey, we don't ever want anything to do with you. But it'll be very obvious if you know the subtle signs, as in comments here and there about, why aren't you in church? Well, is this person you're dating going to church? And it's like, family, you've known that I don't go to church for the better part of 12 years. Can we stop talking about this? So that is a big reason why I haven't come out to them.
Sure.
And, I've been living a very straight life. So there was never really a need for me to say, hey, guess what? I don't only like men. That hasn't ever been necessary.
Right.
Until I started dating this person.
Yeah.
And then they were very uncomfortable with the fact that my family had no idea.
Okay. So you've also just given me context for some of the sort of situation within your family, why you haven't chosen to come out yet, or why it's not easy or comfortable to come out to them. And I just want to make sure, as we ask this question and as we sort of deal with it, do you feel safe considering the idea of coming out to your family? Would it be safe for you to do so?
Physically, yes. I don't live anywhere near them.
Okay.
So there isn't a threat of physical violence or physical retaliation. Emotionally, no. And it's very interesting for me to think about, because I already don't have a very good relationship with them. One might say, well, why do you care? Why do you care what they think? Or why would you care if they cut you off completely? You already don't really talk to them too much. You don't see them too often. They're not a supportive presence in your life. So why does it matter? And I guess for me, it's just, they are my family.
Sure.
And even though I don't have this wonderful, close relationship with them, they are the only family that I have. And I have a sibling who has 3 children, and they're quite young still. And I love being a part of their lives. I have a great time every time I get to see them. And a really big concern I do have is that if I were to come out, my sibling would completely cut me off from their children.
Yeah.
And that, I think, might be the biggest thing that's preventing me from coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's put that into sort of concrete terms. The biggest thing that's keeping you from coming out is
being cut off from my siblings' kids.
Losing contact with your nieces and nephews and nibblings.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. You were just saying that somebody might think Why does it matter? You don't have a relationship with them. Who cares what they say, etc. And sort of on the other side of that coin, I could also say, why do you want to come out? You don't have a relationship with them. Who cares? And so I just want to put that here and wonder, what is that urge inside you, or that part of you that says, I do want to come out?
I think I've kind of just been who I am a lot as a person growing up. I tend to say what I think. At times that is not the best course of action. It gets me in trouble at times. And that has caused problems for me and my family. Me saying the thing out loud that no one wants to say, saying the thing that everyone is thinking, but people don't want to ruffle feathers. We're very anti-confrontation in my family. And I would like to continue to be myself in all of the facets of who I am. And this part of my identity has started to become more important to me over the last several years. And I have obviously no idea what my future will hold. But if I do end up in another queer relationship that goes the distance, as they say, do I just expect my future partner to never be a part of my family life? Because that is what I would ask them to do if my family had no idea. And alternatively, if I do have a partner that goes the distance and my family has no idea until I just show up one day with this person, that puts them in a really terrible situation of having to bear the brunt of my family navigating their emotions in front of them, which is not something I would like to do to a partner either.
No.
So those are a couple of reasons why it's become more poignant. And I value being open and upfront. It's also caused a lot of problems for me to do that within my family, which is a big reason why we don't have a close relationship, because I do the things that I want to do and I live the way that I want to live, which is not in alignment with what they hope for me.
Yeah. And so I tend to be open and upfront, which has caused me a lot of problems. And then you also said that your family finds your life disappointing. I wonder if you're approaching this question that you've brought us, should I come out to my family, from that same place? Here's another way that I'm going to ruffle their feathers and that I'm going to disappoint them.
Absolutely. I grew up in this family. I know exactly what they think about queer people. I parroted some of those beliefs when I was younger because that's what I knew. And my father has a brother who's gay, and he hasn't spoken to or seen his brother in years. He acts like he doesn't exist. And what if my sibling does that to me?
Yeah.
I haven't seen my uncle in probably 20 years. Nobody even talks about him. It's like he never existed. I worry that that'll be my future. And I also want to just be like, hey, fam, guess what? I'm still figuring out who I am. And a new part of who I am is that I also, like women. I am very fearful of that reaction.
Yeah. And especially now that you've told us with that past reaction that your dad had with his brother. And I wonder if there is a way that we can approach this question just a little bit differently, rather than thinking of you as a potential feather ruffler and a potential problem and a potential disappointment. If there's another place that we can stand on as we ask this question. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
I want to address the fear and pain that's over there in your family and in that potential coming out, but I also want to address the fear and pain that is here with you in your own body and in your own image of yourself?
I'm pretty fortunate to, in other areas of my life, be able to be very open about who I am. I wouldn't say I came out to my friends or anything. It was just like, hey guys, I'm dating this person. And they're like, oh, okay. Just kind of moved on with it. I have very wonderful friends. And in my work, it is not a big deal either.
Yeah.
All that to say, it is very painful to know that I have a family that exists, but I can't really tell them about who I am. I can't really be myself with them. I have to censor and be selective about what I say, what I do. And that is profoundly painful. And I think that no matter how much I can intellectualize what is happening, it still hurts. Like I still have a 12-year-old inside of me that just wants my family to like me and like who I am and the things that I choose to do and be excited about the things that I like and not just see me as this other person that's not following the family line. And that fear and that pain also keeps me from saying anything because I'm already so on the outside that this would just be like one extra thing.
You were talking about your 12-year-old who really just wants your family's love and acceptance. And I think there's a 12 and a 24 and a 36-year-old who really wants your family's love and acceptance.
Yeah, I do. And it's easier for me to not have to address it or feel it when I don't live anywhere near them. And when I am a bit older and I have a lot more intellectual understanding of why things are the way that they are. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not hurt and I don't feel alone. It's that I have developed other coping mechanisms to offset the hole that not really having a supportive family leaves.
I would even say more. It's not that you don't have a supportive family. You have a non-involved, non-present family. There's a void there for you.
Yeah. And I will say anytime that my dad reaches out or something like that, it's always with a twinge of wish you were back here having children and being the good Christian girl we raised you to be. And that is extremely frustrating for me. I just want to be like, why can't you just like me the way that I am? And you should be proud of me. I have great friends. I am a great friend. I have a steady job. I can take care of myself and I can take care of people around me. And that should be something that you're really proud of. And it's not. And so more often than not, it's just we don't even engage at all.
So you just gave me a bunch of reasons why they should be proud of you. I'm a great friend and I'm great job. And is there a world where you don't need any of those reasons for them to be proud of you, where they can just be proud of you because you're their daughter?
If I was doing everything that they wanted me to do, sure, because it's easy for them to be proud of me then. But absent of that, I don't know if they have the capacity or the desire to try, to be honest with you. And that is its own pain point, of course, because it's almost as if no matter what I do, how successful I am in other areas of my life, it won't really matter.
Yeah. It's almost, you were saying when your dad calls, there's this twinge of, come on back, be a part of the family. Can you come back and be a part of this family?
But in order for you to do that,
You can't be
you have to change everything about yourself.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that? And so that kind of increases the distance. And there will be times where either one of us will make overtures to try to bridge a gap in a sense. And I think that, especially with the current political climate,
Right.
It has made it even more challenging for us to have any kind of connection, any kind of common ground with one another. It feels like there are almost no safe topics that could be like, let's talk about this thing. And isn't it, we can bond over this really neutral thing. I mean, everything is so challenging now for a lot of people, certainly not just my family. And it's very sad.
Yeah. I am so sorry all of this is happening. It is genuinely heavy and thick and sad.
I'm endeavoring not to cry because I cry so much about it. So it's sad. Absent me completely changing me, I don't know if there is a way for me to be reintegrated into the fold. I don't really want to be reintegrated into the fold because I know what that would mean.
No, you don't. Not from what I've heard.
No, my deepest desire is just that my family would be like, my friends, when I'd be like, hey, I'm dating this person, my family would be like, okay. But I know that they wouldn't do that because they don't even do that when I date men. They're like, tell me everything about them. What is their social security number? What is the last name of their mother? Do they go to church? Where do they go to church? How often are they going to church? Are you going to church together? Are you going to get married and have children? I'm like, you need to relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's constantly that, and it's exhausting. And that's, part of the reason why my family is at arm's length.
That's right. So you've separated yourself from your family even before you had met this part of yourself, right?
Yes, that's right.
And so just hearing you talk and holding all of this, I'm thinking of the importance of family to you. And you've talked about your nephews and your nieces or your nibblings. Can you talk to me just a moment about what is the connection that you're desiring? What is the link there that you're missing, that you're hoping to find? I understand your need to be open and upfront, but I'm wondering, what is it that you're desiring?
Yeah, my sibling and I were very close for a while. They got married, which was great, happy for them. And I had a hard time with that a bit because it was almost as if my sibling no longer needed me to fulfill an emotional closeness. They now had their spouse, which obviously, yes, that is what you were intended to do with your spouse. So that was a bit of a rupture for us, if I'm being honest. And I don't think we've fully recovered from that. And now I have these nibblings, as you say, and they're great and awesome. And they're all toddler age and younger. So they're really fun right now, learning how to be little human beings. And it's crazy how smart they are. And I love being able to be around them and read books and build towers out of Legos and talk about our favorite colors and stuff like that. And I want to continue to be a part of their lives. My sibling and I have a bit of a fractured relationship now compared to where we used to be. And I don't know if that will change anytime soon. But because I have my nibblings, it still leaves an avenue open for me to connect with my sibling. And I'm very scared that if my sibling finds that they cannot accept this at all, that not only will I lose access to my nibblings, I lose access to my sibling as well. And right now, the nibblings are the conduit.
Yeah.
They are the safe topic.
You said my sibling does not need me. Do you need your sibling?
My sibling and I went through quite a bit together as children. And it was that we were the only two people who knew how tough that was and what exactly went on. And we had that bond, and we were the people that we relied on to navigate adolescence and like early adulthood. And my sibling no longer really needs me for that. I think because they have changed so profoundly, and as have I. We have just changed and grown in completely different directions. And so that is also quite painful, because now I feel like I really have no one to talk to about my childhood who was there and understands. So, I'm kind of like on the outside looking in. I'm not needed anymore, which is very interesting, because my sibling reached out to me several weeks ago because they had a shakeup in their career. And they called me. Like, I was the person that they wanted to talk to about this hard thing, to like sort through it, because that is what we did for each other for so long. And I was just like, oh, interesting. So you do still like value my input on some things. So it was just so refreshing. I was like, yes, we can still be friends. And then kind of once the height of that emotional upheaval kind of went away, it was like back to status quo. We don't really talk too much unless it's about the nibblings.
But so you just told me I'm not needed anymore. And then you told me a story about how when they called you, you got really excited. So I'm going to ask my question again. Do you need them? Do you need your siblings still?
I think so. It'd be nice.
And when they reached out, you got really excited because it was a connection again. It was trust.
Mm-hmm. It felt like 10 years ago, if I'm being honest. I was like, we still can be there for one another.
And so as I hear you talk about this emotional closeness and this relationship that you're really sort of yearning for with your sibling, that you miss, and knowing that coming out could be another source of distance for them and another source of disappointment for them, I want to ask if there is any desire in you to do any kind of work on that relationship before you make a decision about whether to come out or not. And what I mean by that is, is there any desire in you to try and strengthen that relationship so that the nibblings are not the only conduit? Mm-hmm. You've talked about how your sibling has changed so much and you have changed so much, and to try and see if there are any points where you guys connect. And clearly there's something if they reached out to you when they had something happen in their job.
Yes, I would love to find a way to put a couple more threads between us. I really struggle to figure out what that could be. I mean, they have 3 young children, so they're a little busy.
Yeah.
I also recognize that I play a role in the distance between us, and that I have also chosen to not reach out, to not make connection, because it always did feel just so tense and disappointing. And the phone works both ways. I can always reach out to you. And I have a lot of compassion and understanding that when you're raising 3 kids, that probably you don't have tons of time to just chat to your sister on the phone. But I also recognize that I could be much more intentional about trying to find some links rather than just allowing the situation to be what it is.
I just want to specify that the reason I'm suggesting this, or the reason I'm bringing it up, is especially because you've already seen your role as the disruptor and as a disappointer. And so I'm just afraid that you're going to keep leaning into that role. And so the question you're asking in a way, should I come out to my family? That role's already implied in it. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Until you said that, I guess I didn't realize how much I had just kind of allowed myself to see myself as the problem, which might be why it's been so painful, because I've just been like, yep, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. I haven't really allowed myself to be anything but that for 12, 15 years of being the person who is the problem. And I guess I didn't recognize how mean I am to myself when I allow myself to just think that way about me.
And I think what you're talking about is something that happens to all of us, especially within the queer community and especially in these times in which we're living, where it's so easy to think, I'm a disappointment, I'm a problem, I am the weird one, I am the black sheep, I am the one that doesn't fit, I am the unlovable one. And it's sort of what I was talking about when I said, before we talk about the pain over there, can we talk about the pain that's present here with you in your body? Is there a way for us to approach your sibling and to approach that conversation from a place where you're not the problem, where you could be? What options could there be, you think?
I definitely think there are ways to do that. Because as I said, once upon a time, my sibling and I had a much stronger bond because it was us against everybody else. We were on the same team, and now we are not. And I think if I can access some of those feelings and memories of how we were when we were on the same team, I think that could go a really long way. And that's just something that, to be honest, I haven't felt able to do for a long time. And now that I have these nibblings and I have, potentially a pretty huge rupture that could happen if I am authentic, I would really love to have a bit more security with my sibling, have a few more bonds there so that at least there's something to fall back on. And they may still be like, I don't want you in our lives anymore. And I can't control that response. But it would also just feel very nourishing for me to begin to join back together, because I miss being in their life and being a person that they talk to me, and I miss that too.
Absolutely.
And it's been a really long time since we've had that.
And you're right. We can absolutely not predict or control the outcome. We can't say, if you do this, then. But just from our conversation today, just from listening to you, it just seems like that is so important to you. It's worth giving it a chance.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to take some noodling about how I'm going to approach it, or what topics are safe. I know that exercising is a safe topic, so I can start with that.
And listen, exercising, and you also just talked about job. Job seems to be a safe topic.
And our work.
Yeah.
Our work seems to be safe. So there are a few things other than the nibblings. And I also know that this is going to require of me to stretch a bit. And I think that I've been so hardened and locked in this stance of well, you guys think I suck, so I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I've been a bit of a brat about it, and I'm the youngest, so I'm allowed to. But that's also not very helpful for the end goal of us rekindling more of a relationship and maybe a friendship. I won't go that far, but at least a sibling relationship between the two of us.
Yeah.
Again, I think it will require me to stop being such a brat.
Is that possible? I'm sorry, I don't mean to say, is it possible for you to stop being a brat? But is it possible for you to imagine that conversation not coming from a place of hurt? Like, is it possible for you to imagine connecting with your sibling from a place of friendship, of that shared bond that you guys have, of love, or even of love for the kids?
I can imagine it because we had it before. So I know that we had the capacity at some point in our lives. I mean, granted, it seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
But we did it once. You know, it was us against the world. So I think that if I stop staying in my lane that, you know, they kind of invited me into, and then I was just like, well, fine. If I stop doing that and approach my family members and especially my sibling with a little bit more grace than I've shown them, I think it can go a long way. I guess I've struggled in my adult life with the balance between having a boundary to protect my own sanity and then also never, ever changing that. And that's been really hard in my adult life. It's something I'm not good at. I'm still trying to figure it out.
It's hard. It's very hard. And I don't mean by any of this conversation to say that you need to bring down your boundaries. Your boundaries, especially to keep yourself safe and sane, are really important.
Absolutely.
And I also just want to explore the possibility. You keep saying, you know, it was us versus the world. And you've also mentioned how they have changed and how you have changed. And I just want to open the possibility that you might reach out, you might try to establish that friendship, and then also understand that it has changed.
I don't think that we will have the same type of relationship that we had before. And I don't want that. Okay. There were a lot of unhealthy behaviors and codependency behaviors that were happening as well. Mm-hmm. And so both of us no longer need that to survive. And also, I think we went from being like really codependent to nothing. And that has been the hard part because there was no exploration of how to be in the middle.
The middle step.
The hard part, you know, being completely enmeshed or nothing. Yeah, the being in the happy middle is super tough to navigate as a human being, balancing the need for maintaining your own identity, your own sense of self, your own boundaries and what you need, with also being a person in the world who has to relate to other people because we live in a world with other people. And how do you navigate that? It's tough, especially with a person that you grew up with and that knows a lot of stuff about you that's pretty embarrassing and terrible. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm just wondering, as we sit here at this point in our conversation, how are you holding that question that you first approached us with? Should I come out to my family?
I think I should. I think I need to do a bit of groundwork beforehand. I don't know. I won't say I don't care what my father thinks. I do care, of course, because I'm his child. And we all desire inside of us to have our parents love and care about who we are and like us. But I think I care a lot more about my siblings' response. And so that will be the one that I focus on. Because if it can be kind of like, hey, it's us against the world again, or like, I know that you have my back at least, like I can at least then navigate it with the rest of the family if I have an ally. And I don't know if we'll ever be allies, but maybe at least sitting on the same bench would be great.
And I want you to know that you have so many allies who are listening to you now, who are here on the show. One of my favorite things of the queer community is this idea that we have of a chosen family, and that we can create family throughout the world as we meet people and as we bond with them and as we create important relationships. And I'm not meaning to suggest that replaces our original family, but it does give me a little bit of hope.
And I do know that, like I said, my friends are amazing. And they, I know, have my back too. So that even if my family does choose to act in a way that I don't want, I have people in my corner.
I want you to feel comfortable calling us back anytime, reaching out anytime. We can always have a conversation.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being so vulnerable, for bringing this conversation to our show, for being willing to have this conversation with me.
Thank you for letting me on the show. I know this is not an easy question to navigate at all, but hopefully other people will also find it useful to listen to. Maybe they're dealing with something similar.
I think there are so many people dealing with the same question you're asking. So I think a lot of people will listen to you and identify themselves with your question.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. This has been The Real Question. Our show is funded through our Patreon at patreon.com/realquestionpod. Please stop by Patreon. Please look at everything we offer. Please sign up. Another way you can support this show is by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Real Question Pod. We're always looking for more guests. So go to our website, realquestionpod.com, and submit your question. We can have a great conversation right here on the air. We love to shout out our BFF tier patrons, Renee Underhill, Amanda Schramm, Christina Igu Brandon, and Jackson Paul Keeley. Thank you, all four of you. Thank you. We are a Not Sorry production. Our co-executive producers are Vanessa Zoltan and Ariana Nettleman. We are edited and produced by Ariana Nettleman. Music is by Nick Bowl, and we are distributed by Acast. Support for this show comes from the Fetzer Institute. I want to thank our guest for joining us today, for being so vulnerable, and for leading so many of us on these complicated conversations about family, about our own identity, and about how to thread those two together. And thanks as always to our wonderful team. Julia Argy, Nikki Zoltan, AJ Yaramas, Anissa Ahmed, Danny Langley, Courtney Brown, Casper Turkile, and Stephanie Paulsell. This has been another episode of The Real Question. See you guys next Monday for another episode and another question.